Alright, just doing some quick mic checks to make sure everything is okay. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. Okay, it looks like we are live. Hello everybody, welcome. We are doing another student correction, and I really like doing these because we have authentic material that are submitted by real students who are making similar mistakes that you are making. And I think this is one of the best ways to learn, is to be able to find out, to recognize your own mistakes and fix them that way. Okay. Also, we are fiddling around with the document, so please tell me if you guys cannot see part of the screen. Okay. If anyone is there, please say hi. Alright. So, like I said, I feel like this is one of the best ways to learn, is by looking at other students' errors so that you can see. Hi Naz, welcome! I am doing great today. I don't know if this is your essay. As we can see, this was submitted by Nazreen. I apologize if I mispronounce your name, whoever this is. But you guys can send us your own essays at corrections@theieltsgrind.com. We are more than happy to edit them here live and tell you exactly what your problems are and how to fix them with some model essays. Also, just really fast, I highly recommend that you guys look in the description of this video. If we go to youtube.com and we find the video, there are two things I want you guys to make sure that you are doing. Number one is that you like this video. Please like this video, it will help us out a lot. Number two, I highly recommend, because sometimes, especially if you're on a mobile device, it's a little blurry, you guys can click that link that was right here in the description, and it will actually take you to the document. We have it shared so anyone can see, and if I'm going too fast, you guys... Hello, Nazreen, Vasir. I think we are looking at your essay today. Congratulations! Yes, but you guys can follow along here by following the link. Also, we have our schedule here if you guys don't want to miss a video. As you guys can see, we are going to be doing a speaking video Saturday at 6 for technology, just like you guys asked. You guys left your comments. You guys left enough comments for me to do another speaking video. So congratulations, you guys. I hope I can see you guys Saturday at 6. Final thing, you can look at our schedule here. Phil did a great job putting this together to make it really easy for you guys to see when we are going to be having our videos compared to when you are. If your time zone is not here, if your city or country is not here, please let us know in the comments and we will add a clock just for you. As you guys can see, today we are going to do task 1 and Nasir's essay. Alright, last thing, I promise before we get started, if you guys are watching in the past, please, please, please press live so that you can join us and be here live with us. Alright, so let's get started with this wonderful essay. Hello Lone Wolf, welcome. Thanks for joining. Okay, so this is Nasreen. I was really impressed with a lot of this essay, especially with the task analysis. They did a really good job, and in fact, one of their scores was almost a 7. It was really, really close. But then the smaller mistakes added up and they did bring it down. So let's first take a look at the essay. This essay is a task 1. We can see here that it is change over time. So here you will be using words like increase and decrease because things increase and decrease over the time. And they give you 2 charts. They give you a bar chart, which is export earnings, and this is billions of dollars. Hi, Nick Vasir, welcome. I'm so happy to see so many people in chat. You guys are awesome. By the way, if you guys ever have any questions or if I'm going too fast, please let me know. I am happy to help. Okay, so also we have product category, which is a table. So you guys will sometimes see this where they give you 2 different charts or graphs, and you need to analyze both of them. Now, in the model essay, I'm going to show you why I always say don't describe the chart, don't describe the graph, describe the data. You guys are going to see that there's a lot of overlap between what this is talking about and what this is showing. Basically, this table right here is just giving some precise information about the change that's here. So sometimes when you guys have this kind of essay, if they give you 2 graphs or a table and a chart or a pie chart and a different kind of chart, what you can do is you can have body paragraph 1 be about the first chart and body paragraph 2 be about the second chart. Now, you can do that here, but because these charts are so connected in their information, I would actually recommend you do not follow that strategy. All right, so just really quick to see how active you guys are in chat, my wonderful super students. Do you guys see any, if we look at export earnings, okay, between 2015 and 2016, do you guys see any big trends here? I'll give you guys just a minute to type. I know that it's often difficult to type in English, especially if you have a keyboard for your mother language. But do you guys see anything here? Okay, while you guys are typing, I'll start going through it, and then maybe you will press enter before I finish. And if you do, you are a super student. But so we have petroleum products. There is a small decrease. There is a small increase, sorry, 2015, 2016. Here in engineered goods, there is a bigger increase. Here there is a decrease. It actually shrank. Small increase and big increase. So I would say that the biggest increase was in textiles. The second biggest was in engineered goods, followed by petroleum products, agriculture products, and this shrank. All right, another thing. I have a very important question for you guys. Which change do you think is bigger? So we can actually go down here and it tells us exactly what the change is. So textiles saw a 15% growth, while engineered goods saw an 8% growth. Which growth is bigger? All right, fiber has significant increased. So I would recommend, Naz, that you write has increased significantly, to use the adverb, increased significantly. And also, sorry, I don't know what you mean by fiber. Oh, as a synonym for textiles. I'm so glad I'm an English teacher. I can recognize this stuff. So unfortunately, fibers, oh no, I'm going, excuse me. So this is Naz, I'm really glad you said that. That is a good example of a time when you can't use a synonym. Really, textiles are textiles. You can't really call it anything else. You could call it clothing, but fiber is not a good is not a good synonym here. But thank you, Naz. You are a super student for giving me one of your sentences. Fantastic. All right, so yes, textiles increase significantly. That's nice. All right, so we did enough analysis. Now we are going to actually look at this person's essay. And as you can see, oh, it's such a wide range. 5, 6, or 7. When I started reading this, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. 6 or 7 for task achievement. I was really, really excited about this. I was like, yes, I'm going to be able to give someone almost a 7. But then I got to the final paragraph. And there were just so many mistakes that it pulled it almost all the way down to a 5. So because the beginning was so strong and the end had a lot of mistakes, we did end up with a 6 for task achievement. But let's go into exactly why that was. All right, by the way, I apologize if the screen is a little blurry. Again, if you're on a mobile device, it does get blurry. If you're on desktop, it is perfectly fine. If you can't see, just let me know. And it is something that we're trying to figure out. So, task achievement. The given bar graph and table chart. So, yes. So right now, task achievement is, does he analyze the thing well? So we're not looking at vocab or grammar, we're just looking at task achievement. Now, if he has too many vocabulary problems for me to understand, that will lower task achievement. But right now, we're not so much looking at vocab or grammar or SUSI. So the given bar chart and table provide information about the actual figures. Nice. Actual figures, he's talking about this. And percent change in export earnings. This is fantastic. This is exactly what it's showing. However, I did add right here of what? You didn't quite finish what this was. The given bar chart and table provide information about the actual figures and percent change in export earnings of a country. You do need to say, you could also just say a country's export earnings. That would also fix it. So, but again, we're not looking at the grammar, it's just a little thing that needs to be changed. Next up, thank you, Naz, for letting me know that it is clearly visible on yours. I'm on a tablet, and that may be why it's a little blurry. But thank you for letting me know, Naz. Okay, next up, overall it is seen vividly. I highlighted this in orange because this is a mistake. Now this is more of a vocabulary mistake, but this is an example, just like what Naz did when Naz tried to replace textile with fiber. He was trying to say this is fiber. This is just not a good synonym to use. Really, the best word to use here is clearly. Okay? Seen clearly. It is clearly seen would be best. But again, this is a minor thing. As you guys can see, there's lots and lots of green here. Right? That most sectors show an increasing trend. The vocab here makes it bad. But that's the only problem. If he had better vocab here, this would be all green because what he's saying is 100% correct. So, show an increasing trend, this should be an increase. I know, it's very frustrating. If you just cross this out and said, and increase, it would have been all green in export earnings. Sorry guys, 1 second. There you go. However, the opposite was true for gems and jewelry. Now, when we get to a farther part, there's a better way to say this. You could have said this all in one sentence. However, it's not wrong, and so it's perfectly fine for a 6 or a 7. And also, the point that he was making about gems and jewelry not having an increase was fantastic. When we get to the model essay, we will see that he was exactly 100% right here. I had a very similar overview in my model essay. All right, so he has a really strong start. Not too many problems here, not too many problems here. Everything's going strong. Next, he starts by talking about the table. The table indicates that the revenue generated by exporting petroleum products was highest. So what he's doing is he's telling us here that in the ranking, it had the highest export earnings. Petroleum products had the highest export earnings. The way that he phrased it was a little weird. Like, as a native speaker, I would not say it this way. However, I understand clearly what he's trying to say, and the grammar is actually correct. When I was looking at it and thinking about it, I was like, yeah, okay. This can be said this way. So again, it's green because it's a good point. It's analyzing the graph well, and there isn't a significant vocab or grammar problem. Next is a detail explaining that. So the way he broke this up was fantastic. It stood above $60 billion in the given period. I really liked this. This was beautiful. In the given period means both 2015 and 2016. So he managed to say that it was the highest export earner in both years. And he did it very concisely. This was 100% beautiful. If I could make this a better green, I would make it a better green. Following this, again, this is CC. He's connecting ideas, but he's also giving important information here. He's saying after petroleum products, so petroleum products were first, then is engineered goods. So the engineered commodities category, perfectly fine, which accounted for $55 billion in 2015. Fantastic. Good point. And he's being specific about the time period. Beautiful. Okay. But then he runs into vocabulary problems. So he has probably learned from a teacher or some other source that soared is a high-level way to say increased. However, soared means increase very quickly. So he said slightly soared. These cannot go together because this means not very much, and this means increases a lot. So again, this is where we start to see the vocabulary problems that lower his task achievement score. Now, I can still understand his meaning, but this is actually a pretty big vocab problem. One piece of advice that I want to give you guys is don't try to be too fancy. If you can say what you're trying to say clearly, do that. Of course, you should be trying to use high-level words and high-level grammar, high-level vocabulary. However, don't just use it because you need more high-level words. That's a big mistake a lot of people make. You should only be using these words when it's appropriate, when it works, when it is not a mistake. Also, if he said soared by $5 million, when you say soar, it means increase a lot. I know that $5 billion looks like a lot, and you could argue that it did soar, but if you're looking at it compared, it's not really soaring. It is a significant increase, but this is not soaring. Soaring would be like if textiles was down here in 2015, and then textiles was up here in 2016. Okay. So enough about that vocabulary. So again, it's not only because he's not losing task achievement because he's using the wrong vocab. He's losing task achievement because it's not correct. Yes, because it did not soar. All right. But he did say how much it changed, which was fantastic. He's using the detail correctly. And then in the succeeding year. Beautiful. The way that he's using referencing. So he's not saying in 2016. He says in the succeeding year. Fantastic. When I was seeing these things, I was like, yes, this is great. Unfortunately, as you guys can see, there's a lot less green. Okay. In addition, the textile sector was around $25 billion in 2015. Now, the reason why this is orange is because you're not saying the right thing. Up here, you were saying the right thing. You were saying the revenue, okay? The exports. And you say it correctly in the next sentence, export profits. This is correct. It's not exactly correct. It's a little wrong, just a little bit though. But this is what's increasing. The textile sector is not increasing. So this is a 5 or a 6 mistake, because this is not what should be said at all. And again, this is how vocabulary mistakes can lower your task achievement. So it's good that he had the detail, but again, because the sentence frame was wrong, it lowered it. Okay. And its export profit saw an increase significant headway. Now, this is a kind of mistake where saw an insignificant headway. This is just the wrong thing to say completely. This is so wrong that I can't understand what you're trying to say. Obviously, because I've been grading the exam, I know what you want to say. But if a normal native speaker saw this, they would have no idea what you were trying to say here. And so because of that, this is a 5. It's such a big mistake. It's such a big vocabulary mistake that that a normal native speaker cannot understand. And so it is a 5. Okay. Near $30 billion. Again, great job using details though. Interestingly, I put this in orange because I do see this in essays sometimes. However, I really don't like it because remember the 3 no's of task 1. No I, no why, no conclusion. No I means no opinions. When you say interestingly, this sounds like an opinion. You're saying this is an interesting fact. You should not say opinions in your essay. So it's not terrible, but it's not good either. And then the agricultural sector sticks around $30 billion. He's missing a little bit of information here that he needs to say over both years. That's what I would add to make it better. Okay. To say that it was about the same. All right. This is the same kind of problem as textiles. Engineering goods increased. Engineering goods did not increase. The export value, the export earning of engineering goods increased. So again, I'm just going to change that here. Increased by 8.5%. But again, because this is a mistake, it does bring you down. Like I was saying, he had a beautiful beginning, and this happens a lot actually. Let me see. Nazren is not alone here. When you guys are writing your essay, a lot of the time you're keeping your eye on the time, and so you run out of time. You have a great body 1, but then you look and you say, oh crap, I only have 4 minutes left, and then you just write as fast as you can, and you get a lower body 2, and it's the average of both that bring you to your score. So while the highest change was seen in textile products, this is a really good point. This is a really good detail to add, but this is the wrong CC word to use. So whenever you put 2 ideas in a sentence, what you're saying is that these ideas are connected. And these 2 ideas about the export earnings of engineering good increases and the highest change was textile products, this is comparing apples and oranges. This is comparing 2 things that cannot be compared well. What you should do is you should talk about the change, which one grew the most, and another one that grew the most. Yes, this is connecting these 2 ideas in one sentence was a weird thing to do. All right, And then the oil and farming category also ascended. Wrong word to use here. It's not a synonym for increasing or decreasing by 3% and 0.18% respectively, but he does do a good job having the details here. In contrast, great. The trade of gems, again, this is not what you guys should be doing. It's the export earnings. Again, if you guys are trying to use synonyms, a better solution is to use referencing. Referencing is when you refer to something you said previously. So it will really help your score if you do this. All right. And then another great detail, and then in 2006 and 2015 and 2016, this lowers his score, and this is kind of like the final nail in the coffin, because what this sentence is saying is that in 2015, it fell by 5.8%. What we need to say is, let's just cross that out for a second. We need to say between 2015 and 2016. Again, it's a small thing, but what you're saying matters. So, Naz, that's a very good question. Naz asks in the chat, does a wrong connection lower the score? If it makes it harder to see the key point, it does. So it would definitely lower your score if you were aiming for a very high score. When you're aiming for a 7, it's not, this is why it's orange. It's not terrible, but it's also not good. This would lower your CC score, but it won't lower your task achievement score too much unless it is a big thing that really gets in the way. Okay, so as we can see, he started between a 6 and a 7. It was so good. And then his last paragraph, why? And so the average between the two is indeed a 6. He had a lot of high level stuff that pulled him up. He had those mistakes that pulled him down. Oh, so frustrating. Okay, let's keep going. Next is his cohesion and coherence. Now, 5 to 6, the overall structure of his essay was actually okay. It wasn't bad. He was talking, actually, now that I say that, so of course he had a few problems that we pointed out before. For example, where did it go? Yes, right here. So there were a few problems here and there that were red. Okay. And then he used this correctly, but he could have said this in a better way to connect these ideas. The way that he organized his essay, I know I just said it was good, but how exactly did he organize it? He talks about exporting petroleum as the highest. He talks about engineering being the second highest. And then he talks about the textiles saw the biggest increase. Of course, the vocab made it hard to understand that. But, okay, so body 1 was all about the highest numbers, the highest ranking, and the biggest growth. What he says about the agricultural industry, he doesn't say where it's ranked. He doesn't say that it's last, and it doesn't really fit in with the cohesion of the rest of his paragraph. This is the highest ranking, the second highest ranking, and the biggest growth. His next paragraph, he's talking about the table. Well, he's talking about engineered goods, which increased. And then, okay. So again, he could have done a better job with better grammar of connecting these ideas. He should have said the largest change was seen in textile products, and the second largest change was seen in engineering goods. If he ranked them, it would have been better. Okay, and Nasreen, my prediction was right. Nasreen just said, Nasreen was the guy who was very brave and gave us his essay. Thank you again, Nasreen, for doing this. And again, I apologize if my pronunciation of your name is wrong, but I guessed that it was because you were running out of time, and you just said that it was because you were running out of time. I know that it makes you sad because of your score, but I'm very happy that I guessed correctly. Haha! And Naz is a girl. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Naz. And Nasreen also says how to finish tasks on time. Okay. I'm so sorry, Naz. I will also tell Phil. Neither of us knew your gender, because we aren't familiar with names from your country. Okay. So if you want to practice your time control means I can finish in time. I recommend two things. So when I teach an IELTS class, if you have your exam in maybe 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or more, I recommend that when you are practicing your writing, you set a timer for 20 minutes for task 1 or 40 minutes for task 2. You set a timer and then you start writing your essay. When the timer goes off, beep, 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 I want you to go to a new color pen and finish your essay. This will tell you if you finish your essay in time and how much of your essay you need extra time to do. And Nasreen is also a girl. Thank you for letting us know. I'm so sorry. Yes. But set a timer, and then when the timer goes off, change colors. Over time, as you practice more and more, and you will write faster and faster. And then as you write faster, you will have more in your first color. If your exam is next month, if your exam is very soon, what I recommend is that you start writing your essays and you set a timer. And when this timer goes off, when you hear the alarm on your phone or your timer, you need to throw your essay away and start again if you are not finished. This is a really good way to learn how to write quickly, because you will get very angry when you have to write your essay again. So if you do these two things, I promise it will help you with your time control. Okay. Yeah. By the way, for task 2, there's different advice that I give. For task 2, my advice is to increase your time control. Just make sure you plan better. Okay. All right. So, going back to CC and the way that the essay was structured. So these were about the increases. Okay. So, looking at it again, is it a 5 or a 6? Let me go back up here. It was mostly vocabulary that were the problems. The actual structure of the essay and how the ideas are put together. There's no red here. It's not a 7. It's a 7 would have an excellent way of organizing it and connecting ideas. But between a 5 and a 6, these mistakes that I've pointed out are not the worst. You know what? I am going to be changing this. Congratulations! You do not have a 5 in CC. You have a 6. Okay. So again, you could have organized your paragraphs a little bit better by having them be about one thing in particular. But I'll show you what I mean when we look at the model essay. Okay. And again, there were some good things here that you were doing. Yes, let me quickly highlight those. So following this was great. The way that you organized it that way was fine. In addition, so you used some good CC words. You used the correct thing, but you should say overall, make sure it's capital. This is where proofreading is important. Yes. Okay. So moving on to vocabulary. Now this was a 5. And it was a 5 for the reasons that we pointed out when we were looking at task achievement. It's just because there are a number of vocabulary mistakes. It was the number of vocabulary mistakes and the fact that they made it difficult to understand sometimes. So let me point those out really fast. And of course, if you see any, or if you don't know how to, or if you don't understand any of these sentences, go ahead and let me know. Okay. I'm just going to point out the bad stuff. Like I said, there was a lot of really good stuff. And again, you guys can always look at, you guys can always check the description if I'm going too fast. And look at the document yourself. And again, at the beginning, we did go through a lot of the things that were good and a lot of the things that were bad. So let's very quickly continue here in vocab. So actually, we're going to start from the beginning, and I will just highlight the good things and the weird things. Yes. Percentage change in export earnings. This was good. Okay. Seen vividly. Again, we talked about this. Because this is vocab, I'm actually going to highlight it in red because it is wrong. It's just outright wrong. You should say clearly seen. It is clearly seen. Yes. That most of the sectors show. Nice. An increasing trend. We talked about how this is wrong. You should just say an increase. All right. And then the opposite was true. This is nice. Really, this is actually a great vocab thing. This was why I was like, oh, this might be a 7. Indicates that the revenue generated was highest. Again, the vocab here was great. Stood. Nice. The given period. This is referencing. I like to talk about referencing with CC. But it's actually graded in LR. It's actually graded during the vocab. So again, this is nice referencing. Which accounted for nice, slightly sorted. This is where we start to see the mistakes. Okay. The textile sector, again, this is not the right thing to be saying. You need to be talking about the export earnings of the textile sector and its export profit. This is going to be orange because it's better than this. However, profit is not the right word to use here. Okay. An increase, insignificant headway. Problem word. Interestingly, we're not going to change it because you used it correctly. The vocab is fine. It's just it lowered your task achievement score. So again, remember, don't say your opinion in a task 1 essay. Okay, but the vocab is fine. You used it correctly. So no vocab lowering because of this word. Section sticks around. Again, this is the same kind of mistake as before, where you need to be talking about not the agricultural sector, but the generated earnings. The earnings of the agriculture sector. All right. Same problem here that we already talked about, which is why we're going so fast through this. Highest change, this was actually good vocabulary, was seen. It's also good grammar. Okay, that's something, a lot of the grammar in this paragraph was actually really, really good. And we'll point that out in 1 second. So headway, let me think of some example sentences for headway. Headway. We are making great headway. Here, I'll type that out down here. We are making great headway. This is how we would use it, and this means we are making good progress. Okay, but we can't use it as a synonym for increasing or an increase. Saw a significant increase. If you had just said increase here, it would have been perfectly fine. And then next up, the oil and farming categories. This is perfectly fine. It's not great. This is not like level 7 material, but this is definitely level 6 material because you are using a synonym. But it's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's just not particularly high level. You're basically using lower level words to describe what's up there. All right. And then we talked about the trade was the wrong word to use here. All right. And then we also talked about how because of this word, it created a vocabulary problem which lowered the task achievement score. All right. Just really fast, because we seem to have some problems with thinking of synonyms for this, we are just going to add some really quick words to say go up. We have increase, climb, go up, increase, climb, grow. Okay, actually let me make a little chart here. Because this is the verb and this is the noun. All right, so if you're looking for synonyms for increase or decrease, this is what you should be using. So, and to give you an example sentence, we would say export earnings for engineered goods went up between 2015 and 2016. All right, and then wherever you see this, you can just replace it with increase, climb, or grow. So you could say went up, you could say increased, you could say climbed, or you could say grew. Now, of course, to show off your vocab muscles, yes, that is exactly why I'm doing this, Naz. A lot of people seem to have problems with this. Yes. Now, to show off your grammar and your vocab muscles, it's important that you can switch between noun and verb. So there was an increase in export earnings for engineered goods between 2015 and 2016. Okay. An increase. Now, please be careful, because cannot use growth or climb. You cannot use these ones for nouns. Now, this is a sentence frame. I also want to show you guys this sentence when you are adding a detail. There was an increase of 8%. This is not correct. This is just an example. In export earnings. Grew. And then again over here by 8% between 2015 and 2016. Now this is a sentence frame, and this is what me and Phil have talked about a number of times. What we recommend that you do is you memorize sentences like this. Remember, do not memorize a whole essay. Number one, you don't know if the essay will be there, and number two, it's just not a good way to learn. Don't memorize a whole essay, but you should be memorizing good grammar sentences like this one. Okay, to show you what I mean by a sentence frame is we can change some of this to be about a completely different essay, and the grammar will still be 100% correct. So let's say that there was an increase of 8% in online shopping sales. Okay. This is showing you that you can just change this for any other time you have a line chart or a bar chart that is change over time. All right. So these are the vocabulary that you guys can be using. But of course, let me also point out one more set here, because increase a lot, decrease a lot. So if you say soar or jump or increase dramatically, okay, we have collapse, plummet, and fall significantly. All right, so again, these are words that you guys can be using for describing things. When you say increase a lot, soar and jump, or increase dramatically, please do not say, what was the example? Slightly soared, because this means a little bit, a lot. It doesn't match. All right, guys, I hope that these are useful. Okay. And we are done with vocab. Again, this definitely is a 5. The beginning, I was thinking it was going to be a 6, but then there were just too many mistakes, and some of those mistakes made it hard to understand the meaning. And so that was what brought you down. All right. Finally, we have the grammar. We're going to go through this really fast because his grammar was actually really, really good. In fact, let me see. Let me just show you some of the clauses that were great. So provided information about the actual figures and change. A lot of students usually have trouble with this, but it was done perfectly. Of course, there was the problem over here because you need to say of what. And this was a grammar mistake that happened here. Of a specific country. Again, and that was basic information. Okay. Spelling is for grammar. We're not looking at the vocab mistakes right now. Okay. So that it is vividly seen that most sectors show an increase in export earnings. If it wasn't for the vocab, this would have been a perfect sentence. The opposite is true. Again, great vocab, but it's kind of a simple sentence to use. It indicates that the revenue was highest. This is an example of where the grammar is correct, but it's not what a native speaker would say. We would say exporting petroleum products resulted in the highest export earnings, or was responsible for the highest export earnings. All right, but this next sentence is fine. It stood at about in the given period. Perfectly fine sentence, no mistakes. But let me start looking for things that were higher level. Okay, so this is a clause, and if you can use them correctly, this is what they look for when they go for a 7. This is an example of high-level grammar, which accounted for $55 billion in 2015. So they're putting this to describe this commodity. But this is the main sentence. Okay. By the way, succeeding year, that should definitely be highlighted in CC. Okay. My mistake for not putting these in before, because these were quite good. Good referencing. Okay. Again, the reason why it was lower, again, was because of the overall structure of the essay. The paragraphs weren't very cohesive. They weren't about the same thing. Okay, going back down to grammar. Again, the rest of these sentences, the grammar is actually correct. It was just the vocab that was wrong. This, again, this was a CC problem, but it's also a little bit of a grammar problem, because if you knew the grammar of while better, it would have been, you wouldn't have had this problem. Using respectively correctly is nice, but that's more vocabulary. Okay, so there were some fancy sentences that were fantastic. For example, this one, except for the vocab, this is an example of a 7 grammar. Okay, this sentence is beautiful. If all of the sentences were like this, it would be a 7. However, because there's only one, and there are a few mistakes, and the rest are a little bit lower level, it is just a 6. Okay, so this was actually quite strong. I'm going to get rid of the 5. It's just a 6. A few small mistakes, but I can understand everything because the grammar was mostly correct, and there was even some higher level stuff. But there were still too many mistakes to make it a 7. Alright guys, so as you guys can see, the total score was, let me just put it all here, task achievement 6, 6, 5, 6. Oh man, so close. 6, 6, 5, 6 is equal to a 5.5. I know that this is frustrating. You guys are probably like, oh, it's so close. Why is it not a 6? They always round down for the individual sections. So for the writing and for the speaking, if you get 6665 or 7776, they will round down to the one below. So 7776 is going to be 6.5. 6656 is going to be 5.5. The good news is that when they put them together, when they put the writing, the speaking, the listening, and the reading together, they round up. So what that means is if you got a 7 in reading, a 7 in listening, a 7 in speaking, and a 6 in writing, that will go up to a 6.5. Or if you got a 6.5, it would go up to a 7. Okay. It wasn't that it dropped from a 7 to a 5 for vocabulary. Yes. It was, let's see here. For the vocab, she was leaning towards a 7 in the beginning, but then she had really big mistakes, and a lot of them, which dropped her down. So if you were only looking at her bottom 2 paragraphs, this would be a 5. If you were only looking at the top 2 paragraphs, this would be a 6 to a 7. And then, but we take it all together, and it is definitely a 6. Okay. So this is the score. And remember, guys, if you want us to give you your score completely for free, please just email us at corrections@theieltsgrind.com. You guys can see that right here, corrections@theieltsgrind.com. Now, we are not done yet. We are going to go and look at a high-level model essay. But before we move on, do you guys have any questions about what we went over? And also remember, we can also help you with your speaking. If you send us recordings of your speaking, we can do that as well. Okay, I'll just give you guys another 30 seconds if you guys have any questions you would like to ask. Thank you, Naz, so much. A super student Naz, giving us essays that we can work with. Thank you so much. And I hope the rest of you also do this. Okay. So, if you guys have questions, go ahead and ask. I will always get back to them. But let's take a look at the model essay. Now again, this is going to be using some very high-level vocab and grammar. So don't worry too much if you cannot write like this. This is an example of an 8 or a 9. Okay? So first thing that I want to point out, and again, if I'm going too quickly, remember, you guys can always, this is the live stream, you guys can always look in the description. So if you guys go here and press show more, click the link, and you guys can scroll all the way down to the bottom to look at it yourself. The beautiful model essays right here. Anyone can access it. You can copy and paste it. You can steal sentences from it. And Naz, your question about the live stream speaking. We are going to have the speaking live stream on Saturday at 6 p.m. because you guys asked me, because you guys left comments on our live stream video saying, please do another speaking. I will do another speaking about technology. This is what Naz asked for last time, technology vocab. So this will be just like the one that we did on the environment. So I hope that you guys can join me Saturday at 6 p.m. and we will have a great time working together. But please be active in the speaking live stream. That is the most important thing there. Okay, and Naz is asking, how do you use plummet and collapse in a sentence? Okay, so I can do that really fast before we continue with the model essay. If we go here, between 2019 and 2020, retail sales collapsed. Okay, what this means, and you could say the exact same sentence with plummeted. Now, of course, because this is a sentence frame, we can change this to be anything. We can make this the population of Japan collapsed. Now, I'm just adding this to be funny. Remember, do not you say why. Never say why in task 1. But just because it's a funny example, between 2019 and 2020, the population of Japan collapsed due to a zombie outbreak. If you guys want to know what a zombie is, they're a band, a really good band, but this is a zombie. So there were zombies in Japan, and that was why the population collapsed. Now, I am going to delete that because I don't want anyone to ever write why in an essay. So instead, I will give you a better sentence frame. from 8 billion. How many people are in Japan? Probably, what? There's 300 million people in America. Okay, I have the internet. What am I doing? Population of Japan. Okay. Whoa, it's such a small country. Only 126 million people. I had no idea. From 126 million people to... so collapse means it falls dramatically. So I'm going to make it 50 million people. Okay. And just like I said, we can change this again and again. So we talked about sales. We talked about the population. Let's talk about the number of happy students in Teacher Michael's class. There we go. Collapsed from 60 students to 10 students. Okay, so I hope you guys can see how sentence frames work. You learn the sentence, you make sure that you've got all the right pieces, and that you don't make simple mistakes like forgetting from and to, or by and to, and that you say the number of. This is really important. It's not happy students collapsed, it's the number of happy students. Thank you, Naz. Thank you so much. Tell your friends. Okay. But with that said, let's jump into the model essay for those of you who are still interested. The value, so I'm going to point out some things, and I'm also going to point out how each sentence connects to the charts. So, the value and change in value. So let me highlight these for you guys. And the change in value. And remember what Nasreen's mistake was? They forgot to say of what. So I'm highlighting that here so that you guys can clearly see the value of a country's exports and the change in value of a country's exports. The value is talking about the export earnings, and change in value, we are talking about the table. Okay. Between 2015 and 2016 are illustrated in the given bar chart and table respectively. Alright, this is just a really nice sentence frame that I recommend you guys learn. Are illustrated in the given blah. Okay, so this is thank you, Naz. That helps so much. So this is something that I want to point out. Try to keep your intro as short as possible. If I really wanted to, I could have added the names of the products because this is basic information. The name of each category is fine. But I want to make sure that my intro is short so that I have more words for my body 1 and body 2. A lot of students, they see 150 words and they don't want to write a lot. They want it to be easy. And so they add a lot of words to their intro. But that does not help. To get a high task achievement score, you really want to have most of your stuff in your body 1 and body 2. That's your meat and potatoes. That is where the important information is. So keep a very short intro and a short overview if you can. So only one sector. This is another thing that I want to point out here. And didn't grow. So basically what I'm saying is all the sectors grew except for one. And then the other thing is I was talking about significant growth. All right. So like I was saying, what Nasreen said was very similar to my overview. Her overview and my overview were quite similar. The main difference here was the second half. So I was saying that there was an exception, but I was also saying that there was significant growth in 2 of the sectors. Now, one thing that I want to point out is I am not talking about body 1 and body 2. Sometimes, if the charts are very, very different, or if they gave you 2 graphs and they're very different from each other, it is perfectly okay to do body 1 chart 1, body 2 chart 2. However, these charts are very connected to each other. So in my mind, this table is just giving me extra information. This table is basically giving me the detail of the change. So I'm not going to be breaking it up between table and chart. I'm just going to be looking at the data. This is what I was trying to say earlier. Don't describe the table, describe the data, describe the information. That's what you want to be doing. And Nasreen actually did a really good job with that in her essay. Okay. This country's export of, this country's export of gems and jewelry. Again, I really want to make sure that this is clear, because this was a mistake that Nasreen made a couple of times. You're talking about the export. This country's export of gems and jewelry was the only sector that saw a fall in earnings. So this is going here. My overview started by talking about the fall, and so my body 1 is about the fall. And if you want a sentence frame, saw a fall in export earnings is a really nice one that you can steal. And this is another thing that I really want to point out for a strong essay. You want to not just say what the numbers are. This is another mistake that a lot of students make when they're writing these essays. Whenever possible, you want to compare the data. So, of course, I have the detail. It fell. This is just basic information. The main thing I want to highlight here is that it did not change its ranking. So, this is a detail for about how much it fell, but this is a comparison. Okay, it is still the 3rd largest export category. So this is important information because I'm saying even though it fell, it's still 1, 2, 3. It's the 3rd largest. There was no change in ranking. So this is something that if you practice analyzing essays, it will come more naturally. And this is another reason why me and Phil are doing these live streams, is to show you guys how to be analyzing these essays. You can analyze it by comparing the ranks. So the smallest or the lowest export earner, the 2nd lowest export earner, the 3rd largest export earner, the 2nd largest export earner, and the largest export earner. Petroleum products had the highest export earnings of all of the categories. Okay, but then I also am saying about the change. Okay, this saw a growth, this saw a fall, this saw an increase, this also saw an increase. So my first paragraph was all about gem and jewelry. And this is what I wanted to tell Nasreen about her essay, is that the way that I'm organizing this is I'm connecting it directly to my overview. This is body 1. This is body 2 and body 3. And I do have 3 bodies because there were 3 different ideas that I wanted to talk about. Alright, body 2, the textile categories saw the largest. So again, I'm going to highlight this because I want you to see of exports, but saw the largest relative growth. This is the key idea, the key thing that I saw from my analysis. 15.8 0.24% is the largest relative growth. Remember guys, if there's ever a new word that you don't understand, just let me know. Okay. And then I had a detail that was saying how much of a change it had. So again, if you guys want to steal this sentence frame, go ahead, steal the sentence frame. It's there for you. Okay. This change brought it neck and neck. This is nice vocabulary. I'm running out of colors to use. Vocab. With agricultural imports in 2016, with both sectors, exports, earnings. So again, it's the earnings that's important here, being approximately $32 billion. So what I'm saying here is that it's $32 billion for both in 2016. Now, this is something that may surprise you. Did I say in my essay what agricultural products started at? In this paragraph, I mentioned agricultural products, and I mentioned how much it has in 2016. But did I mention, and I mentioned how many it has in 2016, but did I say how much money, how much earnings it made in 2015? No, I did not, because it's not important. Okay. What I think is most important, and again, this is for an 8 or a 9 essay, I think the most important things are how they're ranked and what the changes are. You don't need to say every single detail in the chart to get a high score. Okay. So I have one more really important high-level thing that I have here, which is despite this growth, so I said that textiles grew the most with 15.12%. I said it still remained among the lowest ranking sectors for exports. So even though it had a high growth, it is still one of the lowest exporters. All right, these are the sentences where you say despite the growth, it had the largest relative growth, and then it tied. Neck and neck means tie another category. This is how you get that really high task achievement score. All right, final paragraph. Engineering goods experienced a similar situation. So again, I'm comparing the data here. So this is similar to textiles, as it grew by 8.5%. Again, this is just a detail to say how much. And then, of course, I'm saying of export earnings. Again, this is very important because this is a mistake that Nasreen and many other people make. You always need to say earnings. It's export earnings that are increasing and decreasing. It is not the category that is increasing and decreasing. And then, which allowed it to just about tie the petroleum products. So I have two things here. Just about tie and have the highest export earnings. This sentence is doing two things. I'm saying that it ties petroleum products after it grew. So it grew, and then after it grew, it tied petroleum products, and now it has the highest ranking because they are about equal. Okay. Now there's one final sentence which is like a really high level thing. While in relative terms, engineering goods saw less growth than textiles. Again, I'm comparing the growth. They have the growth here, and I'm comparing the two highest. But over here I have while. I want to highlight that for you. While in relative terms, engineered goods saw less growth than textiles, in absolute terms, it grew by more than $1 billion more. Okay, and this is the final thing that the examiner wants to see, especially for a high-level essay. They don't want you to just look at the numbers and say the numbers. They want you to actually analyze the essay. And what I mean by that is, if we look at 15% and 8%, so relative terms means comparing it to itself. So relative terms means you're comparing the percent to the percent. So in relative terms, textiles grew the most, engineering goods grew the second most. However, in absolute terms, if we compare the change in actual dollars to the change in actual dollars, engineering goods had more. Let me show you what I mean. Engineering goods had, so we have to do a little bit of simple math here. We can do 20 billion times 15.24 to get 3,448 million. Okay, so this is about textiles. Okay, textiles 15%, but this is about 20 billion. Okay, and then over here we can do the exact same thing with engineering goods. This was about $57 billion. 57 billion times 8.5%, and you can see that it's 4,845 million. So there are 4 billion more and 3 billion. So this grew by 3 billion. This grew by 4 billion. That's a difference of more than $1 billion. So I'm saying that even though textiles had a higher relative growth, 15 is more than 8, I said that engineered goods saw more growth in absolute terms. The number was bigger. 4 billion compared to 3 billion. All right, guys. That brings us to the end. I'm going to give you guys about 1 minute to ask me any questions you have. If there were any sentences that you didn't understand, or if I wasn't clear with matching the graph to the sentence, just let me know. I will be more than happy to explain that again. Also, if there's any more vocabulary or grammar that you guys want, let us know. Remember, I have speaking on Saturday at 6 p.m. and our next live stream is going to be Friday, which is tomorrow, at 7 p.m. with Phil for correcting a Task 2 essay. So that should also be fun. Do you guys have any questions for me? Thank you, Nasreen, for sending this essay. If you want to try to fix it and send it again, we are more than happy to look at it. And that goes for all of you guys. If you guys would like to send us an essay to have it fixed, just let us know. We'd be more than happy to. I hope that you guys find this useful and interesting. Try to bring some energy into IELTS. I know that it's the most fun thing to study in the world. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining. Remember, if you want to look at this yourself, you guys can always just go to the description and bring it up. You guys can copy sentences or copy the whole essay if you want to analyze it more. Also, to see our full schedule, just click the link in the description and you guys can see our time, your time, and our whole schedule for this month. Thank you so much for joining, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday. Bye guys! Thanks so much for being here.